Hi, welcome to the IHC Craft Room. I'm Mary. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this all ribbon wreath. I'll show you all the steps and materials. And ultimately, the best part of all, other than this super cool wicked sign in the middle here that I picked up at the Dollar Tree, is that you can make a wreath just like this one with all materials from your local dollar store. So grab all your stuff and let's get crafty. This is Mary. Welcome to the IHC Craft Room. For materials, we'll begin with a 14-inch square wire wreath frame, 3 different colors of 2.5-inch wired ribbon, a 9.5 by 11-inch decorative sign, some glittery clip-on spiders in orange and black, and this large furry spider, good lord, this is scary, and lastly, some black pipe cleaners. For tools, we're going to need our friend Gary the glue gun, a pair of scissors, a ruler, and some finger protectors. Let's get started with our wreath base. I've chosen this vibrant orange ribbon to be the base of our wreath. So I'm going to just get started by sliding that ribbon under the wreath frame, making sure that the good side of the ribbon is facing outward. And then we'll add a line of glue across the top and fold it over to secure the ribbon down to the frame. Next, I'm going to just get started wrapping the frame snugly with the ribbon. And of course, the number one challenge of a square wreath frame is the corners. So have some patience and keep at it. I'm sure there's some sort of tip to get perfect corners every single time, but I don't know what that is. So if you do, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, a little bit of patience is really all it takes. I'm just going to keep wrapping that ribbon around, making sure to cover the whole frame snugly until we get to the final section of the frame, and then I'll go ahead and cut off the excess ribbon before I enlist the help of my spicy friend Gary here to lay down a very generous amount of hot glue. And then stick that ribbon down really well. Finger protectors, you have a little piece of my heart. And just like that, the wreath base is done. Boom! Now let's move on to getting our sign ready. Say hi to my new friend, Scott the Skull. First, I'm going to take the string off the back of this sign and set it aside because I'm going to be reusing it a little bit later. Next, I'll add a line of glue at the top of Scott's back, getting pretty close to the edge, and I'll push it down into the glue using a toothpick. And I'll do the same thing at the bottom as well. Since this sign overlaps the top and bottom of the frame so much, I'm confident that 2 pipe cleaners will do the job. Once that glue is dry, I'll reintroduce Scott to Gary one last time and make sure the pipe cleaners aren't going anywhere. Now let's set this aside to dry and get started on our weekly crafting math session. That's right, it's time for the graduated loop bow breakdown. Unlike other bows, the graduated loop bow doesn't require us to cut a variety of lengths of ribbon to create the bow. In fact, with the exception of the ribbon needed for the tail, we won't be cutting any ribbon at all. Let me show you what I mean. First, let's make sure to lay out our ribbons flat on the table with the good side facing down. Both of these ribbons have a good side and a bad side, so I'm going to have to keep track of that and make sure the good side is always facing down. We're going to start by lining the 2 ribbons up together, making sure that the good side is facing down, and we're going to start by making a small loop on the left-hand side. And we'll follow that up with another loop on the right-hand side that's roughly the same size. There you go. We just started our bow. Now remember, we've talked about good side, bad side, and you're going to hear me say that a lot because on this ribbon, we have to keep track of it. So in order to keep the good side facing forward, what you're going to be doing is scrunch and twist our ribbon so that we can flip it over and have that good side facing out. That's what we're going to be doing at the center every time we cross over to another loop. We'll scrunch and twist. I'm going to use my scissors to keep the ribbon in place, and then to make our next loop a little bigger than the ones in front, I'm going to use 1 finger width as a measuring point and bring that ribbon over to the center again, and say it with me, we're going to scrunch and twist. And I'll do the same thing with the next loop and the next. We're going to continue repeating this process for each loop. I'm going to make 1 more large loop on either side using a finger width for each before we call it a bow. Okay, we made it to the last loop. So now it's time to scrunch up the center and use a pipe cleaner to bind it all together and make sure that we don't lose track of any of our loops before we cut off that last bit of ribbon. A couple of good twists will do, but I have a twist paranoia, so I over twist my pipe cleaners. Whatever, I don't want to talk about it. Now that we have our bow tied tightly, I'm going to separate each loop and fluff them out so you can see each ribbon really well. Now let's go ahead and cut some of each ribbon to use for the tail. I'm just eyeballing it here, so feel free to do the same, but if you need a number to shoot for, I would suggest about 12 inches per piece. I always like to dovetail the ends of my ribbon because it gives it a crisp look, but feel free to do whatever makes you happy. Once that's done, I'm gonna lay them out flat, face down on the table, alternating between each color, and then I'll scrunch them at the center, give them a little bend, and then tie them to the back of our bow using the same pipe cleaner that's holding the bow together. I'm just gonna spend a super short amount of time fluffing the loops to make sure the bow is nice and full. Super short. You won't even notice. Like totally. It's not even gonna be like, you won't notice. You won't. Super short. And voila, we have a graduated loop bow. Now it's time for my favorite part, putting it all together. Let's go. The first thing I'll have to decide is if I want the wreath base to be a square or a diamond. I decided I wasn't a big fan of the diamond look, so I made sure to center Scott in the frame, and then I tied the pipe cleaners down to secure the sign to the wreath frame. Bueno. Now let's decide where we want the bow to sit. Honestly, it was kind of a hard decision to make because the bow looked good everywhere. I laid it down here and there, and in the end, I decided to pick the top left corner with the tails framing Scott's spider sombrero. It's time for glitter spiders. Literally the only kind of spider I can look at and not imagine that I feel it crawling in my hair. Before I start positioning these spiders, I'm gonna go ahead and tie the bow down tightly to the wreath base. And then I'm gonna spend a bit of time fluffing out the bow loops and giving them a nice round shape before adding in the spiders. I'm just gonna clip a couple here and there until I'm happy where everything is positioned. Excellent. We've got just one last finishing touch before the big reveal. We need to glue that jute cord down so that we can hang our wreath just like that. Just look at that orange pop. And I have to say, Scott, you're looking pretty dapper just in time for Halloween. So tell me, what do you think of my wreath? I'm really thrilled with the way it came out. All of the elements really tied together beautifully. I love the pop of orange. I love the skeleton sign that I got from the Dollar Tree and how it ties so nicely in with the black skeleton ribbon. It just all ties so beautifully together. The spiders, all of the things. It's just everything you want for a wreath for your front door for Halloween. At least I'm super thrilled and I can't wait to go put it on my front door. So tell me, what do you think of it? And are you going to make a wreath like this one for your front door? Tell me all about it in the comments below. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about wreath making, check out one of these videos. And don't forget to subscribe so that we can continue to get crafty together. Toodaloo!